For years, we have followed the search for erased African-American cemeteries across Tampa Bay. Well, tonight, 10 Investigates looking into the grave questions at the site of an old Catholic school in Tampa. I want to show you this right here, the old Sacred Heart Academy campus along North Florida Avenue and Lake in Tampa was once the site of St. Mary's Cemetery records, also suggesting there were more than 900 graves. But there's no concrete evidence all those graves were moved. 10 Investigates Emerald Morrow has been documenting concerns about St. Mary's for more than 3 years now. And Emerald, the Catholic Diocese has a new marker to honor the site, but it still raises questions about where those graves went.
Yes, we know for sure that some of the burials are at Myrtle Hill Cemetery in Tampa, but back 100 years ago, that cemetery only took white burials. But because this marker states that St. Mary's buried Black Catholics, now the question is, where are those graves today?
Tampa has a big problem with transparency, especially when it comes to cemeteries, especially when it comes to Black cemeteries.
Just 1 block from the erased Zion Cemetery, where crews found nearly 300 graves under public housing and 2 local businesses. A new plaque tells a story about the old St. Mary's Cemetery.
What they also have told us in this plaque is that there were many people of color buried here. There were white, there were Hispanic, and there were African American people buried here.
On the site of the old Sacred Heart Academy, St. Mary's Cemetery was established in the late 1800s for Catholic Tampanians, who were buried there through the mid-1920s. This overlay shows where the cemetery is today. And this deed shows the Diocese of St. Petersburg acquired the property from the Diocese of St. Augustine in 1968. Over the last few years, 10 Investigates combed through historical archives and records from a local researcher that suggests more than 900 people of different racial backgrounds were buried here. Old newspaper records show 100 of those graves were moved to a section of Myrtle Hill Cemetery in Tampa when St. Mary's closed in the mid-1920s.
You know your history, Myrtle Hill was a white cemetery. So anyone that would have been relocated would have been white only. Our question remains, where are the other people? And those other people would be people of color, which would be Hispanic and African American.
Good question. This new marker says people were moved to other cemeteries, but does not say where. We reached out to the diocese for details. A spokesperson said in an email today, some of the graves at the former St. Mary's Cemetery were moved by private undertakers. We have no records or knowledge of where they were taken. The Diocese of St. Petersburg plans no additional action. And while no one would talk to us on camera, the bishop previously said this.
I've been looking into the Sacred Heart Academy and looking into some of the graves that are there. And
I'm not going to discuss that.
Well, the families are asking me, if you're able.
Our diocese is working to resolve that issue, and we're committed to doing so. We're doing our part to do the research and to research the history there.
Will there be any ground penetrating radar at all for the area?
I'm not able to answer that today.
Answers people of all backgrounds have been searching for. Alexia Saveda reached out to us after looking for her great-grandfather.
I was quite convinced then, and I'm even more convinced now, that his remains were never moved.
Henderson isn't convinced either. She wants a ground-penetrating radar survey to answer once and for all if bodies are still resting on this site.
I want a GPR. If they want to shut me up, if they want me to stop, then do the GPR, prove me wrong. So yeah, I feel as if, once again, the Catholic Church has failed me, has failed the Catholics, and has failed the city of Tampa.
Emerald Morrow, 10 Investigates.
Well, the new marker is between 2 mausoleums along North Florida Avenue. An archaeologist told 10 Investigates that could qualify the site as a cemetery if remains are inside.
10 Investigates reporting on St. Mary's has already resulted in action. Archaeologists with USF added the old cemetery to Florida's master site file. This will let people know about possible remains on the site in case of future development. Now, hundreds of unmarked graves from erased Black cemeteries have been found over the last few years here in the Tampa Bay area. You can see more stories from Emerald's series at 10tampabay.com/erased.